Imagine traveling back more than 5,000 years, before the pyramids, before the mummies, before the legendary pharaohs, a time when the Nile River flowed through a land of scattered villages surrounded by endless desert. No one could have imagined that this remote corner of the world would become one of the greatest civilizations in human history, a civilization that would last for over 3,000 years, a civilization whose monuments still stand today, a civilization whose mysteries continue to fascinate the world. This is a complete history of ancient Egypt. And our story begins with a river. Ancient Egypt would never have existed without the Nile. Flowing more than 4,000 miles across Africa, the Nile was the lifeblood of Egyptian civilization. Every year, its waters overflowed their banks. When the floods retreated, they left behind rich black soil. This fertile land allowed crops to grow in the middle of an otherwise harsh desert environment. For early settlers, the Nile was a gift from the gods. Small farming communities began appearing along its banks around 5000 BC. People cultivated wheat and barley. They raised cattle. They fished the river. And gradually, these settlements grew larger. Over centuries, villages evolved into regional kingdoms. Two major regions emerged: Upper Egypt in the south, Lower Egypt in the north. Each had its own rulers, customs, and symbols, yet both depended entirely on the Nile. As populations increased, competition for resources intensified. Powerful leaders began uniting smaller communities under their control. Then, around 3100 BC, a king named Nama changed history forever. Nama successfully united Upper and Lower Egypt into a single kingdom. Many historians consider him the first pharaoh. Ancient carvings show him wearing the crowns of both regions, a powerful symbol of unity. This event marked the official beginning of ancient Egyptian civilization. With unification came stability. The kingdom developed a centralized government. Taxes were collected, laws were established, trade expanded, and the pharaoh became the supreme authority. Unlike ordinary kings, Egyptian pharaohs were believed to possess divine power. They were considered living representatives of the gods, protectors of cosmic order, guardians of balance. This balance was known as Ma'at. Ma'at represented truth, harmony, justice, and order. To the Egyptians, maintaining Ma'at was essential. Without it, chaos would consume the world. The pharaoh's most important responsibility was preserving this sacred balance. Religion quickly became central to Egyptian life. The Egyptians believed countless gods influenced every aspect of existence. Ra controlled the sun. Horus protected kingship. Anubis guided souls after death. Osiris ruled the underworld. Isis represented motherhood and magic. These divine beings shaped how Egyptians understood the universe. Temples became centers of worship. Priests conducted sacred rituals. Offerings were presented daily. And religious beliefs influenced nearly every aspect of society. At the same time, another revolutionary development appeared: writing. The Egyptians created one of the earliest writing systems in history: hieroglyphics. These beautiful symbols allowed information to be preserved permanently. Scribes recorded royal achievements, religious ceremonies, taxes, trade transactions, and historical events. Knowledge became a source of power. Scribes became respected members of society. And Egypt developed one of the most advanced administrative systems of the ancient world. Trade networks expanded rapidly. Gold arrived from Nubia. Rare woods came from distant lands. Luxury goods flowed into royal centers. The kingdom grew wealthy, and wealth encouraged ambition. Early rulers began constructing impressive tombs known as mastabas. These rectangular mud brick structures served as burial places for kings and nobles. The Egyptians believed death was not the end. They believed the soul continued its journey after physical death. For this reason, burial practices became increasingly important. Food, tools, jewelry, and treasures were placed inside tombs, everything the deceased might need in the next life. As generations passed, Egyptian engineering skills improved dramatically. Architects experimented with stone construction. One remarkable figure stood above all others: Imhotep. Serving Pharaoh Dosa, Imhotep designed the step pyramid at Saqqara around 2670 BC. The structure was revolutionary. Instead of a flat mastaba, layers were stacked upward toward the sky, creating the world's first pyramid. The step pyramid became the first monumental stone building in human history. Its construction changed everything. It demonstrated Egypt's growing power, its engineering abilities, and its desire to achieve immortality. The pyramids symbolize a bridge between earth and heaven, a pathway for the pharaoh's soul. The success of the Step Pyramid inspired future rulers. Soon, Egypt would enter its most famous era, the Age of the Pyramids, an age of incredible ambition, massive construction projects, and engineering achievements that continue to amaze the modern world. The foundations of Egyptian civilization had been established. The kingdom was united, religion flourished, writing spread, and powerful rulers were preparing to create monuments that would survive for thousands of years. The greatest wonders of ancient Egypt were about to rise from the desert sands. For thousands of years, they have stood against wind, sand, storms, and time itself. The pyramids, massive stone structures so extraordinary that even today they remain among the greatest engineering achievements in human history. How did an ancient civilization build them? Why were they constructed? And what secrets still lie hidden inside them? This is the story of Egypt's most famous age, the Age of the Pyramids. By the time the Step Pyramid of Djoser was completed, Egypt had entered a new era. The kingdom was stable, agriculture flourished, trade expanded, and the pharaoh's authority reached every corner of the Nile Valley. With growing wealth came growing ambition. Each ruler wanted a tomb greater than those of previous kings, a monument that would guarantee eternal life. One pharaoh in particular transformed pyramid construction forever. His name was Sneferu. Sneferu became one of the most successful builders in Egyptian history. During his reign, architects experimented with larger and more advanced pyramid designs. One of their earliest projects became known as the Bent Pyramid. Halfway through construction, the angle suddenly changed. Perhaps engineers feared collapse. Perhaps they discovered structural weaknesses. No one knows for certain, but the lessons learned proved invaluable. Soon afterward, Sneferu's builders completed another structure, the Red Pyramid. Unlike previous attempts, it achieved the smooth-sided shape now associated with Egyptian pyramids. It became the first true pyramid, and it paved the way for an even greater achievement, because Sneferu's son was Pharaoh Khufu, the ruler who would build the most famous monument in human history, the Great Pyramid of Giza. Construction began around 2580 BC. Thousands of workers gathered near the site. Stone quarries operated continuously. Engineers planned every detail. Food and supplies flowed through carefully organized systems. For decades, the project continued, block after block, layer after layer. The Great Pyramid slowly rose above the desert. When completed, it stood nearly 500 feet tall. For almost 4,000 years, it remained the tallest structure on Earth. Its size alone is astonishing. More than 2 million stone blocks were used in its construction. Some weighed several tons. Yet somehow they were transported, lifted, and positioned with remarkable precision. Even modern engineers continue debating exactly how it was accomplished. Some believe enormous ramps were used. Others suggest combinations of sleds, levers, and carefully coordinated labor. Experiments have shown that wet sand may have helped workers move heavy blocks more easily. But despite decades of research, many questions remain unanswered. The Great Pyramid still guards some of its secrets. Inside the pyramid lies a network of passageways and chambers. The king's chamber sits deep within the structure. Massive granite blocks form its walls. Nearby are mysterious spaces whose purpose remains uncertain. Recent scanning projects have even detected hidden voids inside the pyramid. Large empty spaces concealed behind stone. Their purpose remains unknown. Additional chambers, construction features, unfinished passages. No one can say for certain. Near Khufu's pyramid, other rulers continue the tradition. Khafre constructed the second pyramid at Giza. Menkaure built the third. Together, these monuments transformed the plateau into one of the most iconic landscapes in history. Yet perhaps the most mysterious structure at Giza is not a pyramid at all. It is the Great Sphinx. Carved directly from limestone bedrock, the Sphinx combines the body of a lion with the head of a king. For thousands of years, it has watched silently across the desert. Civilizations have risen and fallen around it. Empires have disappeared. Yet the Sphinx remains. Its true meaning still sparks debate among historians. Some believe it represents Khafre. Others suggest deeper religious symbolism. Whatever its purpose, it became one of the most enduring symbols of ancient Egypt. Contrary to popular myths, the pyramids were not built primarily by slaves. Modern archaeological discoveries reveal something different. Near Giza, researchers uncovered worker villages containing bakeries, workshops, living quarters, and medical facilities. Evidence suggests many builders were skilled laborers. Farmers may have worked on construction projects during periods when the Nile flood prevented agricultural activity. The pyramids represented a national effort, a project requiring incredible organization and planning. They were symbols of both royal authority and Egyptian unity. At the same time, Egyptian beliefs about death became increasingly sophisticated. Mummification evolved into a highly developed practice. Priests carefully prepared bodies for eternity. Internal organs were removed and preserved. The body was dried using natron salt, then wrapped in layers of linen. Amulets were placed among the wrappings for protection. Everything served a single purpose: preparing the deceased for the afterlife. The Egyptians believed that preserving the body helped ensure survival beyond death. Inside tombs, walls were decorated with scenes of paradise, fields of abundance, flowing rivers, and eternal life among the gods. For the pharaoh, the goal was even greater: to join the divine realm and live forever among the stars. The age of the pyramids represented the first great peak of Egyptian civilization. Its monuments demonstrated extraordinary engineering skill. Its religion shaped every aspect of life, and its rulers left behind structures that continue inspiring wonder thousands of years later. But maintaining such an enormous project required tremendous resources. Eventually, royal power weakened, political divisions emerged, and the age of giant pyramid construction slowly came to an end. Yet Egypt itself endured, because even greater chapters were still ahead. Warrior kings, powerful queens, massive temples, and an empire that would dominate much of the ancient world. The pyramids were already ancient. Their builders had long since passed into history. But ancient Egypt was not declining. It was evolving. Soon, powerful pharaohs would command vast armies. Magnificent temples would rise beside the Nile. Legendary queens would rule the kingdom, and Egypt would become one of the most powerful empires on earth. This was the golden age of ancient Egypt. After the age of the pyramids, Egypt entered a difficult period. Royal authority weakened. Local rulers gained power. Political instability spread throughout the kingdom. For a time, Egypt was divided, but the Nile continued flowing, and eventually, strong leaders reunited the land. This new era became known as the Middle Kingdom. It marked a period of recovery and renewal. Agriculture expanded. Trade routes reopened. Cities prospered once again. Literature flourished. Egyptian scribes wrote stories, poems, and wisdom texts that survived for thousands of years. Religious beliefs also evolved. Earlier periods focused heavily on the pharaoh's journey into the afterlife. Now ordinary people increasingly believed they too could achieve eternal life. This belief transformed Egyptian society. Tombs became more elaborate. Funeral rituals grew more important, and the worship of Osiris, ruler of the underworld, spread across the kingdom. Yet while Egypt prospered, a new threat appeared. Around 1650 BC, foreign rulers known as the Hyksos entered northern Egypt. They brought powerful military technologies, horse-drawn chariots, advanced bows, and new battle tactics. For the first time in centuries, foreigners controlled part of Egypt. The Hyksos ruled for generations, but the Egyptians learned from them. They adopted their weapons, improved their armies, and prepared for war. Eventually, Egyptian rulers launched a campaign to drive the invaders out. After years of conflict, they succeeded. Egypt was united once more, and stronger than ever. This victory marked the beginning of the New Kingdom, the greatest age in Egyptian history. Now Egypt became an empire. Its armies marched beyond the Nile Valley. Military campaigns expanded Egyptian influence into neighboring regions. Gold, silver, precious stones, and luxury goods flowed into royal treasuries. The kingdom grew incredibly wealthy, and that wealth funded some of Egypt's most magnificent monuments. One of the most remarkable rulers of this era was Hatshepsut, a woman who became pharaoh during a time when kings were expected to be male. Many doubted her ability to rule. She proved them wrong. Hatshepsut focused on trade, diplomacy, and construction. Under her leadership, Egypt enjoyed peace and prosperity. Her magnificent temple at Deir el-Bahari remains one of the most beautiful structures in Egypt. Built against towering cliffs, it still amazes visitors today. After Hatshepsut came one of Egypt's greatest military leaders, Thutmose III, often called the Napoleon of ancient Egypt. He led numerous military campaigns, expanded Egyptian territory, and transformed the kingdom into a powerful empire. Under his rule, Egypt reached heights of influence never seen before. As the empire expanded, religion became even more important. The god Amun rose to prominence. His priests accumulated immense wealth and influence. The city of Thebes became Egypt's religious capital. There, enormous temple complexes were constructed. The most impressive was Karnak. Generation after generation added new halls, obelisks, statues, and sanctuaries. Even today, Karnak remains one of the largest religious structures ever built. Its giant columns tower above visitors like a stone forest. Nearby stood Luxor Temple, connected to Karnak by a grand ceremonial avenue lined with sphinxes. During religious festivals, thousands gathered to celebrate the gods. Priests carried sacred statues through the streets. Music echoed across the city, and Egypt's spiritual life reached extraordinary heights. Then came one of the most unusual rulers in Egyptian history, Akhenaten, a pharaoh who challenged centuries of tradition. Instead of worshipping many gods, he focused almost entirely on one, the Aten, represented by the sun disk. Akhenaten closed traditional temples, reduced the power of established priesthoods, and built a new capital city in the desert. For a brief moment, Egypt experienced a religious revolution, but after his death, the old gods returned. His city was abandoned, and later rulers attempted to erase him from history. One of those rulers was a young king named Tutankhamun. Today, he is the most famous pharaoh in the world. Ironically, his reign was relatively short. What made him legendary was the discovery of his tomb. In 1922, archaeologist Howard Carter uncovered Tutankhamun's nearly intact burial chamber. Inside were thousands of treasures, golden chariots, jewelry, weapons, furniture, and the famous golden death mask that became an icon of ancient Egypt. The discovery captivated the entire world. Yet perhaps the greatest ruler of the new kingdom was Ramses II, known as Ramses the Great. He ruled for over 60 years, led military campaigns, built enormous monuments, and left his mark across Egypt. His colossal statues still stand today, especially at Abu Simbel, where giant stone figures stare across the desert exactly as they did over 3,000 years ago. Under Ramses, Egypt reached one of its final peaks of glory. The empire was rich, its monuments were unmatched, its culture flourished, but no civilization remains at its peak forever. Beyond Egypt's borders, powerful enemies were rising, and the long decline of the pharaohs was about to begin. For more than 2,000 years, Egypt had dominated the ancient world. It built pyramids, raised colossal temples, created powerful armies, and ruled one of history's greatest civilizations. But even the mightiest empires eventually faced decline, and ancient Egypt was no exception. The final chapter of the pharaohs was approaching. After the reign of Ramses the Great, Egypt slowly began losing its strength. Successive rulers struggled to maintain control. Foreign invasions increased. Economic problems weakened the kingdom, and political divisions became more common. Although Egypt remained culturally powerful, its influence gradually declined. Over the centuries, powerful foreign empires began conquering Egyptian territory. The Assyrians invaded. Later came the Persians. Each conquest reduced Egypt's independence. Yet Egyptian tradition survived. The temples still operated. The gods were still worshipped. And life along the Nile continued much as it had for generations. Then, in 332 BC, everything changed. A young conqueror named Alexander the Great entered Egypt. The Egyptians welcomed him as a liberator. He was declared pharaoh and founded a new city on the Mediterranean coast, Alexandria. This city quickly became one of the greatest centers of knowledge in the ancient world. Its famous library attracted scholars from across the globe. Its harbor connected Egypt to international trade networks, and its lighthouse became one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. After Alexander's death, one of his generals, Ptolemy, took control of Egypt. His descendants ruled the kingdom for nearly 3 centuries. This became known as the Ptolemaic dynasty. The last and most famous ruler of this dynasty was Cleopatra VII. Intelligent, ambitious, and politically skilled, Cleopatra understood the growing threat posed by Rome. At the time, Rome was becoming the most powerful force in the Mediterranean world. To protect Egypt, Cleopatra formed alliances with powerful Roman leaders, including Julius Caesar and later Mark Antony. Together, Cleopatra and Antony attempted to preserve Egypt's independence. But another Roman leader stood in their way: Octavian, the future Augustus. In 31 BC, their conflict reached its climax at the Battle of Actium. Antony and Cleopatra suffered a devastating defeat. Within a year, both were dead. And in 30 BC, Egypt officially became part of the Roman Empire. The age of the pharaohs had come to an end. A civilization that had lasted more than 3,000 years finally lost its independence. Yet ancient Egypt was far from forgotten. Its monuments remained, its stories survived, and its mysteries continued inspiring future generations. In the final part, we'll explore the incredible legacy of ancient Egypt and why the world remains fascinated by its secrets thousands of years later. The pharaohs are gone, the temples have fallen silent, and the last dynasty disappeared more than 2,000 years ago. Yet ancient Egypt never truly vanished. Its legacy still surrounds us today. The pyramids continue rising above the desert. The Great Sphinx still watches over the sands of Giza. And archaeologists continue uncovering hidden tombs, lost cities, and forgotten treasures buried beneath Egypt's landscape. Ancient Egypt gave the world remarkable achievements in architecture, engineering, writing, mathematics, medicine, and astronomy. Its influence helped shape countless civilizations that followed. Even today, millions of people remain fascinated by Egyptian gods, pharaohs, mummies, and monuments. But perhaps Egypt's greatest gift is its mystery. How were the pyramids built with such precision? What secrets remain hidden beneath ancient temples? Where is Cleopatra's lost tomb? And what discoveries are still waiting beneath the sands? Every year, new archaeological finds reveal more about this incredible civilization. Yet many questions remain unanswered. That is why ancient Egypt continues to captivate the world, because its story is not completely finished. Thousands of years after the first pharaoh united the Nile Valley, Egypt still inspires wonder, curiosity, and imagination. Its civilization may have ended, but its legacy became eternal. If you enjoyed this complete journey through ancient Egypt, be sure to subscribe to Mystery of the Ancients and turn on notifications for more epic stories about lost civilizations, forgotten empires, ancient mysteries, and the greatest secrets hidden throughout human history. The past is full of mysteries, and we're only beginning to uncover them.